Hello, hi, I am Nobukumbalo and welcome to Seasons, a series where I sit down with some of the incredible people I've had the privilege of rubbing shoulders with, and we just have a chat, about the different seasons that we've been through or are currently going through, in the hopes that you'll feel seen, that you'll relate, and that you'll know you are not alone. Today, I have someone who is definitely not new to the limelight. You've probably seen her on YouTube here and there, but you've definitely seen her on Instagram. She is someone who is multifaceted. She is a mom, she is a wife, but she's also an entrepreneur and also an attorney. She has a lot going on and she seems to manage to balance everything together. But I met her probably almost 10 years ago, actually. We weren't really the closest people until maybe the last year of uni, of which at that point we're not even really close, but we spoke here and there. But interestingly, post, uni, we've actually become quite good friends. And I brought her here today because long before it was fashionable, people are doing it these days, long before it was fashionable for someone to leave like a proper, stable corporate career to go full on into social media and influencing, as you'd call it, she saw something in herself and she took the plunge. And now you've probably seen her on many campaigns. You've seen her on campaigns with Nivea. She's doing something big with Pick and Pay right now. You've seen her with Nespresso. And I think before she was full time, she was probably with Nedbank, but she'll correct me on that. Before I was Investec. Great, Investec. But before I preempt everything, I have here with me Didi Karabo Kumalo. Hi, friend.
Hey, Nobu.
How you
Hey
doing?
to your subscribers. I haven't been on YouTube in so long.
Exactly.
I hope I still remember how to do this.
Good thing is that I'll run the show, so you can just relax. You don't have to
Yes,
be
I'm glad.
correct. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's a very busy
I was
season.
about to ask.
It's very overwhelming,
Yeah.
but I've had to remind myself that these are the days that I prayed for.
That you prayed
I'm not
for.
gonna curse the blessing. As much as I'm exhausted, as much as I need a holiday, I'm just trying to keep my head down and to keep focused and still working and delivering the best that I can, not just in my workspace, but also for the people in my life.
Exactly. Okay, before we dive straight into it, I'll ask you this was already a good icebreaker because you've already told me what's going on. You're busy, I can tell. But another one. This one might be obvious, but I'm keen to hear. If you were to give up creativity, content, right? What would you give up between fashion and food?
Fashion.
Easily fashion.
Fashion,
Why?
yes. I mean, food content comes so naturally to me. I mean, a lot of people see Dine with Didi, the finished product, and they probably think I like it's something that was born last year. But I've always loved cooking. I've always loved preparing good food, trying new recipes, and that's actually how Dine with Didi was established. Because I would just post random stories on my main Instagram page of the meals that I was preparing for my family, and people in my DMs would ask me to share the recipe. So I always found myself having to type out recipes for people and try remember what actually I mixed as I was cooking. And that's where my passion for food content came from, because I thought, let me rather create one platform, a one-stop shop where people can actually come and explore food with me, as well as the recipes that I try out for my family.
That was so smart. That's why I said earlier, you seem to have it all figured out, because some people don't, your gift won't really necessarily scream in your face, but it's about realizing, oh, actually I could pivot and I could make this useful. And I think especially for you who's dedicated your life and you're this is what I'm doing right now, you kind of have to always be switched on and make sure you're kind of seeing, okay, what can I do to pivot and make myself stand out from the crowd.
Yes.
What is your absolute favorite meal that you've curated? Maybe let's say on Dine with Didi. If you are to be go to my page, and if you don't have time, check out this one. Which one would it be?
I don't think there's necessarily one, but I found that all my chicken recipes do so well. And even for me personally, I always cook chicken and I always cook it differently. But every time I cook chicken, I'm just damn, I think chicken reminds me that I can actually cook. Because another thing is that people don't realize that you don't always get it right. Although you cook good food and I share food content and I've got a food page, I don't always get it right. There's days when I cook and I'm just like, oh, what the hell is this? But with chicken, I found that chicken is so versatile. It's so easy to cook. It's a very easy going meal to prepare. And my chicken recipes are always the best and they tend to overperform. But then I also tried a steak and kidney pie for the first time. It was so good. And it got so many views and so many saves and reshares. It shocked me. That was one of the content pieces that shocked me because I was literally just preparing pie for my son and for myself as well. And it exceeded my expectations.
I actually made your chicken mushroom pie on Sunday. And
really?
It was so good.
How was
it was so good. It was so good, but I overestimated how much chicken and mushroom I needed compared to the paste I had. So like I have like a leftover like of the chicken and stuff, and I'm probably gonna like make pasta and have it with pasta. But it was so good. It was so good. I had like the last.
I actually had
today.
the leftover chicken today as well because I think my helper usually will pack the stuff away in the fridge. So sometimes because I'm cooking so much, we tend to forget some of the food. So today I realized there was rice, and then I saw the chicken, and I had the chicken from the pie with the rice, and it was perfect.
Okay, I'm gonna do that. I'm definitely going to do that. Okay, cool. Let's get into it.
I'm glad to hear you tried it.
I did. And the other one, I've tried a few, but the other one that's also memorable for me is, you remember your lentil fried rice?
Yes, it's one of the first recipes I made.
So good. Yes, so good. Yes. All right, cool. Let's get into it. People are going to listen to us waffling. I said earlier that I met you in uni and you were studying law. But fast forward, you're in this different space altogether. But before we get into the space you're in, I'm curious to know what inspired you to study law and how did you find that journey? And as you're going through it, if it's something that you kind of always knew for a while it was for you, did that journey of studying it affirm it? Or somewhere along the line, you're like, maybe not quite?
So, to answer your question, I don't think I've always known what I wanted to do. I do have a very vivid memory of myself when I was 10 years old. I was in grade 4, and I remember wanting to be a nurse. I don't know what inspired that, but I think maybe it's the innate desire that I've always had to want to help people and to work closely with people and to make a difference and an impact in their lives. So that's what I wanted to be when I was young. I remember my birthday cake for my 10th year birthday was a nurse, like a cake of a nurse. But somewhere as I grew older, got to high school, and I think as you get to high school and the level, the difficulty compared to primary school gets a bit more, and you start to realize where your strengths and weaknesses are. I realized very quickly I'm not a maths person. Okay. I'm not good with numbers. Don't give me numbers. I'm really terrible at numbers. And so because I was always talking and loud and opinionated and wanting to help people, then I sort of thought maybe the legal profession is the direction that I needed to take. And once I set my heart on wanting to do something, I literally work in that direction and I'll put my efforts in that direction. So because I'd made up my mind that I wanted to become a lawyer one day, I started focusing on that. And so even in matric, I applied to become a lawyer. No one really influenced me, or I think also as Black people or as young Black people, we don't have much exposure. So we always think you either become a lawyer, a doctor, a teacher,
accountant, an engineer,
engineer. You're not exposed to other things. So for me, within the stuff that I was exposed to, I was like, okay, I'm going to become a lawyer, and that's what I'm working towards. So then that's what I applied for varsity. And then in terms of studying law and whether or not it met my expectations when I started working, it's two completely different things. Being a law
Don't student, I know it?
you know because you're in the same profession, but studying law and working in the legal profession, two completely different things. I even always joke around and say anyone could go into the legal profession. You don't even need to go through varsity because you get to work, you get to corporate and you realize why did I study all of that? Because it has nothing to do with what's happening here. Even when you write board exams, like you're studying completely different work, and the difficulty level is also like very different. So yeah, it was quite different. I enjoyed being a student. Like I personally, I don't know if you felt the same because we didn't really talk much in varsity. But being a student was so easy. Like I love studying. I love like education. I love gaining knowledge, immersing myself in my books, studying with the people around me. I really, really enjoyed varsity. And I think I did quite well in varsity because I worked so hard. But it's a different experience in corporates.
So now you're in corporate. Obviously, it hits you. Okay, law school and the real world are two different things. How are you finding it though? Is it a different but good in a challenging, exciting way? Or because I do know people who like very early into their articles were like, I have to finish this because I've started it, but this is clearly not for me. And then for some people, they push a bit longer and then maybe they qualify. And then once the responsibility starts mounting up, they're like, maybe this is not for me. I'm curious to know, when you were in there and practicing and it was complex and completely different from what you had studied, how were you finding it? And like, where was your headspace in terms of looking at what your life your future and the career was going to look like? Yeah.
So I remember my first day of articles. You get to Stanton, and because I was actually I worked for a top 5 law firm.
Yeah.
And so you get there and it's this massive building, and then you step into the building and everyone looks like they have their lives together. You get into the same room with all the other CAs, and you look around and you see how excited everyone is, and people seem to know what they want. And I remember the chairman of our law firm coming to speak to us as first year candidate attorneys. And he gave us this long speech. He told us about the history of the firm. He told us about how things are run there, what like their goals are, and everything. And I remember once he was done speaking, thinking to myself, I didn't say this to anyone else, but I was sitting there thinking to myself, I don't think this is where I'm supposed to be. And it's because I saw the passion that he's like, how passionately he spoke about the place and how invested he was in that place. And I was surrounded by other people
who were
just as passionate about the
okay.
space. And I'm like,
and when I like, this is just a job for me, like, guys. When are we knocking off?
No, for me, I was just like, and I didn't know it before, but when I was sitting, I promise you, I got a moment of realization as I was sitting there, and I was like, I don't think this is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. And I don't think I have the desire to be doing what these people are saying they're doing here, because this seems like this needs to be your life. And the type of person that I am and the type of person that I knew God had called me to be, I was like, I don't think, like, I just did not see. Usually I can see the vision for my life very clearly, but I just did not feel a certainty in my heart that I would be there for a long time. But at the same time, I knew that there's a reason and a purpose why I was there. And I needed to still be obedient in that season of me being there. So I knew that, okay, you're here now. I always say in life, you need to ask yourself 3 questions. Where are you? Where are you going? And what do you need to do to get there? So I knew that
like
for
my husband right now.
Yes. So I knew that for that season, okay, this is where I am. This is where I want to go. But in order to get there, because I need to finish what I'd started. I studied law. I want to do my articles. I want to be admitted as an attorney. And then I know, I kind of have an idea of what I want my future to look like. But for this season, I'm here and I need to do this and I need to do it well. And I need to make myself proud. In anything that I do, I always think to myself, are you making yourself proud? Are you proud of the decisions that you're making? Are you proud of the work that you're putting in? So and like I said, it also goes back to obedience. Sometimes you might not feel like doing something, but you're still required by God to be obedient in that position that He's placed you in. And I also knew that I'm not just there for work, but also for influence. Like, I know people look at us as creators online and they call us influencers, but you're not just called to be an influencer on Instagram, on social media, because it looks glamorous. You're called to influence the people in your life and the people around you. And what kept me going was the relationships that I built. So as much as I knew that this is not my space and this is not where I'm going to be for a very long time, but I needed to make an impact for as long as I was in that space. And so I built good relationships with my directors, with my senior associates, my associates. Like, I really built solid relationships that I can look back and say, I'm proud of those relationships. And I genuinely do believe that I had some sort of impact even on the directors that I worked with.
You highlight a very important point, because I think a lot of people, when they've sort of checked out, so to speak, mentally from a space, or when they can see that I don't have a desire to stay in this place for long, they forget about the other little things, or they forget about like how life is. I like to say life is long, but it's also short,
it's
right?
Long.
In that it's long, like you don't know who you're going to meet, where, and what you will need from them, right? So if you're that type of a person who, if you get to a space, you don't like what's happening, you burn all the bridges because you've told yourself that I'm only here for a short while, after that I'm gone, then you might find yourself one day in a room with someone who needs, who's holding the keys to your destiny, and now you can't get them because of, how you burnt the bridges at that time. So I think it's an amazing thing that even though you knew that, look, I don't know what the future looks like, but I know this is not it, you still made sure that for the now, do what I can, build relationships. And relationships are such an amazing currency. Like, you don't know when you need them, but they always pay. They always come in handy.
To disturb you as well, in terms of the relationships, it's so important because, like you said, you can't just quickly tap out because you feel like, oh, this is not where I'm supposed to be, or I'm working for I'm not working for the nicest people. And in corporate, it is cutthroat. Like, no one really gives a damn about you, to be honest. But people will pay attention to you when you stand out, when you set yourself apart. And that's one thing I've always tried to do when I was in corporate. I set myself apart. And although I worked for, like, I remember when I was doing my rotation from construction and engineering to competition law and data privacy, I remember the director that I was placed with in the previous years, and in the year that I was there was word on the street that no one wants to work for this person. Like, no one wanted to go to that department. And I remember being chosen to go there, and I broke down and I cried so much because I was so scared. And best believe, even when I got there, she was as wild as they had explained her to be. But I told myself, like, I reminded myself of that element of relationship. Like, every person is unique, and no one is too far off from forming relationships with people. And I formed a relationship with my director or / principal. And the things, had I taken the attitude to say, I'm not gonna be invested in this, screw her, screw this work, I'm not gonna make an effort, I don't think I'd be where I am today as a content creator. There were so many things that I learned from my director that I'm still applying today in the work that I'm doing. We used to run I remember she said to me, lawyers, I don't want to offend anyone, but she was like, lawyers are dumb. All they do is they open a textbook and they take legislation and they apply it. They never really think outside of the box. And what she told me is that you need to think outside of the box, and you need to treat our practice like a business. So we used to fetch work. I remember we used to like put together proposals. You think we only draft and we do competition law, but she'd literally every week we'd be turning around like 5 to 10 proposals to send out to clients, to pitch to clients. And I still apply that in my own personal brand today. I don't always just sit and wait to be approached. I reach out to businesses, I sit in meetings and literally ask clients, how can I make a difference in your company? Or I even tell them how, like, I look at gaps in clients' businesses and I say, this is where I can add value. And it's made a difference in the world.
That's also another thing that my husband always says, that, wherever you are, even if it's not where you want to end up, there are always skills that are transferable one way or the other. So, like, yes, you don't like the environment, you don't like being there, you're sure you don't want to be there, but focus also on what it is that you can learn, such that when you're trying to go into the next thing that you want to go into, you can be like, look, it was a different field, it was a different thing, but I have this skill and that I've learned this way, and this is how I can like translate it and make it fit into your business. So no matter the space you find yourself in, there's always something to learn that is going to be valuable for you in the future. Because the worst thing you can do is like waste years of your life grumpy, not forming relationships, doing a that job, not learning anything. Because remember, by the time you want to pivot into something else, someone's going to say, okay, why should I take you on when you haven't been doing this thing that you're trying to get into? And if you haven't invested yourself and applied yourself fully where you were, you have nothing to look back on. And even if someone wants to give you a chance, you need to give them something to work with, right?
Exactly.
So you can say, I knew I was in the right place, but still look at what I did. So I'm a person who, I work and I do my best, even, when I don't like necessarily feel like it. I'm curious though. So first day you're clear, this is not where I want to be. In your head, is there something in your future that you'd rather be doing, or are you at that point just certain this is not it and you're trying to figure it out as you go along?
I just wanted to be a housewife, to be honest, because I knew, and I didn't just want to be a housewife. I knew that I was so strong in my home. Like I am a homemaker. Like in my house, I know how to run things to the T, and our home can function like a well-oiled machine. And I saw that I had I was so strong in my household, and that's why I felt, okay, I'm not happy here, so I might as well be a housewife, and then I'll just follow my passions. I knew I liked creating content, and I didn't start creating content when I left corporate. I've always been, my friends always, well, people who grew up with me always say, even my brother, he always says, you've always been a content creator, because since I was young, I liked documenting memories, capturing people, capturing my family, capturing myself, sharing things, knowledge, wisdom, whatever. So I've always known I loved and enjoyed it, hence why I was still doing it even when I was in corporate. And my director even knew what I was doing. Like I'd literally sit in her office and tell about all the campaigns, the small campaigns I was getting. Because when you're in corporate and you're getting social media campaigns, you don't realize you understate yourself. So you're not aware of what's happening in that market and how and how much people are making. So even when brands approach you, you're like, oh, you can just give me 5,000. And you think for you it feels like, because you're earning so much also in
you're just
corporate.
Like, just a little thing for my nails,
Because I was earning so much money in corporate, I didn't feel like I needed the extra money from content creation. So when I got it, for me it felt like, oh, extra money for me to spend, I've always known I was passionate about, I was always creative, man. I always just, and I was always just a social butterfly. So I knew that I might not be in corporate for long. I didn't have a clear picture of what I'd be doing, but I just knew that I'd be, whatever I was doing, I would do it well and I'd be adding value.
What was the final deciding factor on the day you decided, okay, I'm leaving this corporate job? And I don't know if you leaving was because you now had like a proper plan for the social media part, or you left without a plan. But what was that thing that, clicked and you're like, okay, I'm giving my resignation? And what is your husband saying through all this?
So I felt pregnant. It wasn't planned. I actually conceived the night that my husband and I got married. And then obviously I was pregnant, and then COVID hit. Now I am pregnant. It's lockdown. I'm working under so much pressure. I've never worked as hard as I did during lockdown. I was up. My boss was always up around 4 a.m. So by 5 a.m., I had mail in my inbox, and corporate is quite anxiety inducing. Like you don't sleep well because you already know, especially when you work for someone who's like moving at quite a fast pace.
Your brain never sleeps.
Your life is not at ease. Like even weekends feel very short. Sundays feel super depressing. And
I'm laughing because I know exactly what you mean.
Like it's a lot. So then I fell pregnant, and it was COVID. I was working really hard. I remember my back was killing me because I'd literally sit on a chair from like 6 a.m. and I'd go to bed at like 2, 3 a.m. and I'd have to do it again the next day. And it was quite strenuous for me. And then I remember lockdown restrictions got lifted just a little bit. People still work from home, but our firm, we were literally back in the office. I remember it was the 1st of June. We were back in the office. Everyone was back in the office. And it was just long hours. It was emotionally taxing. And I remember then we were allowed to work from home a bit. I remember waking up one morning and I broke down. Zam had already left for work, because at least during lockdown, I felt better because Zam was working from home, and whenever I was stressed, My boss would literally swarm me with so much work and he'd say, Zam, please help me. Like he'd be like, call Zam to help you. And I remember Zam then had to go back to the office. So then the one morning he left quite early and went to work, and I woke up and there was a month left for me to go on maternity leave. I took maternity leave, I think, a week before I gave birth. So there was a month left before going on maternity leave. And I remember waking up and crying. I had a mental breakdown. And I called my sister-in-law and I said, I literally don't know how I'm going to survive another month in this place. Because for me, it almost felt like maternity leave was going to be an escape for me. Like that's when I knew. Like I was so excited to go on maternity leave because it felt like, whoo, I can leave this place and not have to stress and not have to feel the weight on my shoulders for a good. I think I took 3 months of maternity leave, not 4. That's how much pressure you have, because now you're like, I can't take 4 months
because
like,
how does it look?
I'm gonna fall behind.
Exactly, everyone is progressing. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, when I was so adamant for my maternity leave to come and I didn't see myself surviving another month, I knew that my journey in this place was coming to an end. And then I remember coming back as well from maternity leave, because I told you in the beginning. So in my when I left construction engineering, my new team, we specialized in competition law, but my principal had a second practice, which was data privacy. But during COVID lockdown, I realized I hated competition law. Like I was not happy. So as soon as I got back to work after maternity leave, I sat down with my director and I told her, like, I really am not happy. She even said to me, she was shocked because she said to me, I can't believe there is someone who does not love competition law the way that I do. Because she also there were 2 of us on her team. It was another guy who was in the same year as me, and then it was me. She didn't have any associates. She didn't have senior associates. That's how lit that team is. People did not stay in that team. So she had high hopes that the 3 of us we're going to build something with her. And I had to be honest with her, and I was like, I'm genuinely not happy. Like, I'm not happy. And then there were 3 other directors in our team, in the same team or department, and she had to speak to them to say they need to stop giving me competition law work. Fortunately, she had data privacy, which I really really enjoyed, and we had to build that. It was quite a new department, so we had to build it. Papaya was coming into enactment. So we're building a lot of toolbox solutions for clients. And that's when I also learned how to do proposals and pitch to clients and all that stuff. So that's when I actually knew, around that time is when I knew that, like, this is coming to an end and I can't wait to get out of here.
And then you leave. What does life look like now? Now
that you asked me what my husband, he actually asked me what my husband thought. Sorry. Zam was not impressed with me, to be honest. When I told him I didn't want to work anymore, I didn't want to be in a law firm, I wanted nothing to do with law, he was not happy, like, to be honest. And he even said it yesterday. 2 of our friends came to visit, and he said to them, he's always felt like I would thrive in corporate and that I should leave practice, but still stay in corporate and go in-house. Because he felt like, I'm amazing and I can do well and I can thrive. And I think he married me because he just saw this boss babe, powerhouse. And
then you're like,
he wasn't
nope.
happy. He wasn't happy, but he supported me. As much as he wasn't happy with the decision, he supported me. And I remember him saying to me, content creation is no longer a hobby now, it is a job. So you can't wing it. You can't post at random. You need to have a plan. And he asked me, what's your plan? So I had to write out my plan, and he was holding me accountable. So every day when he came back from work, he'd ask me, so what did you do today? Who have you been speaking to? Who did you reach out to? Which meetings did you have? He'd prep me sometimes before work. He'd prep me for meetings, would put together proposals. And he basically said, you need to treat this like a business and you need to own it and you need to set yourself apart, because content creation is quite a saturated space. There's a lot of us doing it, but you need to set yourself apart. I remember him saying, you need pillars. You can't just go with the flow. Now this is popular. Fashion is popular. Now you're a fashion content creator. Food is now popular. You're now a foodie, or a food content creator, or people are becoming motivational speakers. Then that's what you're doing. Choose 3 pillars and then focus on those 3 pillars. And every week you need to push out content that covers those 3 pillars. And that's how my brand grew and became strong.
you've already like nicely led us into the next part of our conversation. So when we are sitting on the other side of the screen and we're seeing like these, campaigns, when you start seeing so and so has posted Nivea, then it's that there's something that has just been, released, but we don't know the business behind these nice pictures and these nice reels and all that goes on. Tell me a bit more about the business behind being a social media. I don't want to call you an influencer per se, because there's a bit of some
digital
negative
content creator.
Yes, because there's a little bit of like
a negative
connotation to influencers, like
I think people are haters though. People don't like the idea that people are making so much money from following their passion.
We'll get there.
So it makes people feel quite a bit intimidated. So for them, it still does not make sense for a lot of people, and also people still don't realize just how much money is being made. Because even like today, when I think about it, I'm probably making more money than a senior associate on my level. But
let's park that one for now.
Yes.
Let's park that one for now, because I'm sure a lot of people are curious. Because like I said earlier, it seems to be fashionable now to quit your corporate job and do this full time. But for a lot of us, we're looking at the outside and like, how sure are you about this thing of yours that you'd quit your stable job and do this? And people are like, they don't get paid that much. They doing ABCD. I won't go into all that, but people have reasons about how influencers afford their lifestyle, and they're always saying it's not the content. There is something dodgy behind it, but we'll get to that one. Tell me about the business behind content creation. For you to be successful as you are right now, what is the business behind it? When you're thinking about pitching and who you're going to collaborate with, how are you working through that? And I'm curious to know, because I have seen from you that you don't just align yourself or do anything that just comes across your desk, right? You seem to have a clear picture of what you're about, who you want to work with, who aligns with your purpose and who doesn't. So I'm curious also to know what your vetting process in your head is to make sure that you stay true to yourself and your mission.
So it all boils down to intentionality. Like I said, when Zam and I sat down, and spoke, I had to decide what my pillars or core focuses will be on social media. For me, the core things that I like to focus on my page is family, home styling, and food content. And these, I can almost say there's a golden thread between these three pillars because they overlap into each other. So as soon as I chose these brands, I then sat down. I had to think, okay, when I envision my brand and the growth of my brand and the direction that it's going, which brands would I like to work with? So then I had a list of brands that I wanted to work with. Some had already approached me to work with them, and I'd already had an established relationship with them. But now it's like, okay, which brands do I want to work with? Which brands am I already working with? And which ones do I want to continue working with? And then that tells you where you need to put your focus and attention. So if I want to continue working with certain brands that have already approached me, it means that I need to nurture relationships. It means that at the beginning of the year, when it's New Year, I need to be sending out cards to say, Happy New Year. Hope you enjoyed your December. Looking forward to working with you again in the future. By the way, these are my plans. Yes. By the way, these are my plans for this year for my brand. I remember before I renovated my kitchen, I knew this year we want to renovate the kitchen. Why do I want to renovate the kitchen? What's the purpose? Okay, I potentially want to start creating a lot of food content. And this was I launched Dine with Didi last year in 2023. I ideated Dine with Didi in 2022. I think it was 2022 or end of 2021. When I realized I wanted to expand into the food industry, I was like, okay, it means I want to renovate my kitchen, because at that time we had just moved into this house and the kitchen was not what we wanted it to be, but we knew what we wanted it to be once we renovated. So I was like, okay, we're renovating the kitchen. I want to create more food content. Let me bring some partners on board. Kitchen renovations are expensive. But let me bring partners on board, not just for the kitchen renovation, but for long term. Because once they help me to renovate my kitchen or have an input into renovating my kitchen, we can go build a long-term partnership. For example, if I've been working with Corey Craft long-term and they give me kitchen crockery and all my kitchen appliances or utensils, or I work with Hisense and they give me my fridge and dishwashers, I'm going to be creating a lot of content in my kitchen.
Yes.
I'm going to be cooking, I'm going to be doing laundry, I'm going to be fetching groceries in the fridge. I want to work with Pick and Pay. I'm going to need groceries to create this content. So already I'm aligning myself with brands that I know I won't work with once off, but long term.
Yes.
So the tricky thing with working with brands once off is that it's not sustainable. You need to reach a point in your work where you in your content creation work where you bring on brands that can go on a journey with you. That way you know that your income is also stable. You know that you don't need to be, because when your income is not stable, it's easy for you to take on whatever, to work with whatever brand. This week you're working with this brand, next week you're working with that brand, you're working with competitors, and people can't really see you as a brand, because the main aim is for you to become the brand and not just become a one-stop shop for every brand that doesn't even align with you to come and market themselves. So in building these relationships, I had to think, okay, who do I want to go long-term with? But even in wanting to go long-term with, you need to nurture those relationships. It's like any relationship you have with any person in your life. With you and I knew I wanted to become your friend, so I had to make the intentional effort to nurture our relationship, to invest in the relationship, to spend money, to come to London to come and see you. It's the same way with some brands. Before I was working with Pick and Pay, you post Pick and Pay, you spend money, you use their products so that you create visibility, so that they can see, if they're coming to you, they can already see, oh, she's actually aligned with our brand, so we can work with her. And even when you create content, sometimes brands will come in the beginning, actually, brands will come to you and they won't necessarily have enough budget to pay you what you're worth. But there's certain brands where you'll be able to say, sorry, I can't work for this budget. But there's other brands where you're going to say, I need to be forward thinking. Yes, they might not afford to pay me what I'm worth now, but they might be able to afford me a year from now. So let me invest and let me not give them substandard content
because they're not
just because they haven't paid me. Let me give them the best, so that next time they know that this is exactly why we need to pay this person. And that's how you establish your brand. And the more you establish a brand and these relationships, and you make you set yourself apart, the easier it is to negotiate good rates for yourself and to turn down work that doesn't align with you. And I'm glad that I'm at that point where I don't need to take on everything. For me, honestly, quality is better than quantity. I'd rather work with 3 really amazing brands that align with me and work with them for the rest of the year than to work with multiple brands once off.
Have you ever, no names needed, but have you ever turned down an opportunity to work with a big brand because it didn't align with you in a sense? If so, tell me about that.
I've turned down alcohol brands.
Talk me through that, because some people will be like,
let me tell you, alcohol brands pay a lot of money. Food brand, FMCG companies pay a lot of money for marketing. Alcohol brands pay ridiculous money. People get deals to post alcohol, and I've been approached numerous times to become an ambassador for alcoholic brands, because with them they usually also want long-term relationships. So if you see with certain alcoholic brands, there'll be a group of girls who are working with that brand and they work quite long-term with them. But I've had to turn it down because I don't drink alcohol. And for me, I feel that it's very important to remain authentic in the content that I create. I'm building a relationship of trust between myself and my audience. And so when you see me post something, best believe I'm using that product. And if a brand approaches me and I'm not using their product and I believe in that brand, best believe I'm going to start using that product, so that when I talk to my audience, they trust me and they believe that what I'm saying will work for them. So yeah, with alcoholic brands, it just made no sense. There was no alignment. It's like, okay, I don't drink alcohol, so I don't see why I would promote alcohol. But for example, with my partnership with Pick and Pay now, they have partnered with Master. So it's actually a Pick and Pay Master Chef campaign that I'm on. And they have partnered with a very popular wine, Cape Town wine brand. And so for one of the content pieces, I need to feature the wine. So I can cook with wine because it's something I would ordinarily do in any case with the meals that I cook. But I told the client I can't drink the wine
because I don't drink.
Or tell people that I'm going to drink this or I enjoy the wine, because it's not true. I do not drink alcohol or consume it. I even said I can gift it because they want me to host, and have guests in my home. I'm like, I can serve it to my guests if they want to or gift it to someone, but I'm not going to consume it. And that's why I've had to turn down alcoholic brand partnerships.
That's a very good one, because I find a lot of us compromise ourselves for the sake of maybe it's desperation, or maybe we really need the opportunity. But it's something to be able to say, okay, I see you, I hear you, I see the number that's on the table, but because of my principles. Not that I'm saying anyone who chooses to work with you or who drinks is like that. I'm not trying to judge anyone, but I'm saying these are the decisions that I've made about myself and my life and what I stand for. And while it would be great to have as much money as I can have, I am not going to compromise on my principles just for the sake of it. And also, I mean, even we see it also on the other side of the camera. There's some we're like, bruh, you do not use this. Like,
you do not use this. You are lying.
You do not. You do not use this. This is definitely an ad. After this, you probably gave it away at your child somewhere, and it loses. Because when I look at someone's content, I want to relate. I want to feel like I want it to make me wanna go and get it, because I see it's working for you. Because I see that you really are passionate about it. So if I can see that this is just an ad, I'm like, you're just doing this for the money.
People, I promise you, people can always tell.
Yeah.
Other campaigns I've had to turn down. For example, I've been approached multiple times by trading and forex companies, very big companies. I'm sure you see campaigns going around on social media, and they offered me good money. My husband was even like, try it, just try. I was like, I can't. This is not something I would do in my own personal capacity. You would not find me on these platforms. For example, last year I worked with an insurance company. I wasn't insured with them, but I immediately insured some of my staff with them, because like I said, if I'm telling people go sign up for this insurance, how am I telling people that when I'm not doing it myself? Yeah. How am I telling you to go trade on a platform and invest your money that you've worked hard for on a platform that I've never tried before? I don't know if it works or not. So why should I tell my audience to do that? So I've had to turn down work like that. And other reasons I've had to turn down work is purely based on the fact that brands can sometimes be very exploitative. And they don't pay content creators what they need to be paying them, which is a very sad thing in the industry. And you see people, like you always see, you'll turn down work and then you'll see a big group of people doing it, and you're like, so these people were willing to accept that. And I think it's one of the things that's going to I feel it's going to be very important in the future, in order for this industry to be better regulated and for people to earn what they deserve. People are going to need to say no to work, because brands take advantage of content creators, especially small ones or even the big ones who don't realize how much they actually need to be earning. Because remember, you also don't just earn from posting, you earn from usage, you earn from exclusivity. There's so many companies that are still not willing to pay content creators for usage and exclusivity. And I'm now at that point where if you're not willing to compensate me, especially because I put so much work into my craft, I take my brand so seriously. And if someone is not willing to pay me, fortunately, I'm in a position where I can say, actually, it's okay. We will work together another time. And there's been instances where a brand has approached me this year and they said, actually, we can't afford you, we can't pay you. And I had to turn them down. And they eventually came back, because there's a reason why you get approached. They come to you because they saw something in you. They saw the value that you can add. And if they see that value, they should be willing to pay for it. And so, that's just one of the reasons why I had to turn down work.
Let's get straight into it. The sustainability and the safety net. When you're in corporate, like you said, even if you don't like your job, even if you're doing like a just an okay job, you're going to get paid at the end of the month. The check is going to come in, but it's not the same thing here. You are the business. You are the entrepreneur. If you do not work, you do not eat. But I'm sure a lot of people, a lot of us are always wondering, is this really financially sustainable? And if it is, or rather, what should you do to make it financially sustainable? I heard you talking about exclusivity and so talk us through those things, because there are a lot of people who genuinely don't believe that you can live off it. But at the same time, there are some people, I don't think everyone is able in the same way to live off it. It's about the effort that you're putting into it, how intentional, exactly, how strategic you are.
It needs a lot
how
of
are you
effort.
making it work? Yeah.
Yes. So I mentioned, my husband said, this is a business. You can't just post at random. You need to align yourself with the right brands. Dine with Didi was also a strategic move. As much as I've always wanted to do it, but I also realized there's a lot of this, the space is very saturated.
Yes.
I can be the cool person today. Yeah. There's always a new content creator. I'll give an example. Grace Mondlana, I think she is phenomenal. She's brilliant at what she's doing. Grace, when I met her last year, we went on a trip together, a brand trip together. She had she had followers, but there were not that many. Yeah. But if you see the work that girl has put in the past few months, it reflects in the work that she's getting now and in the money that she's making. Yeah. And for me, it's always been a thing of there's always new people coming. Brands like the new person on the block. Like they want to ride on that. I always knew I'm not going to be popular or cool forever. I need to find something that's sustainable. Dine with Didi makes sense. It's a food brand. People will always want to eat. In lockdown, everything was shut down except what? Food. Food is always people are not going to stop eating tomorrow. So it only makes sense to be in the food space because people are always going to want recipes. People are always going to want to see food content. It's always going to be in. But also FMCG companies are willing to invest money in that. And there's also so many other avenues to branch out into when you're a food creator. I was even thinking, I want to go to school now, to set myself apart. I want to go to school. I want to become a specialized person at this thing. And that's how you set yourself apart and treat yourself like a business. When you align yourself in this way, brands take you seriously. Brands are willing to pay for the brand. And also, when you take your craft seriously and put in the work, your audience takes you seriously because it means that you respect them. Because remember, who are we creating the content for? We're creating it for the next person behind the screen. Yeah. And for them, they need to feel important. I don't treat my followers like they are groupies or like fans, are more important than them. For them, I feel like my followers are the most important thing. And therefore, I make it an effort to build a relationship with them. I make it an effort to reply to their messages. That's why if you check on my posts, I will reply to each and every single person. Well, I'll at least try my best to reply to each and every single person, to reply to my DMs. Why? Because I want my audience to feel like they're important and that they matter. These are the people that matter when it comes to when I'm posting paid work, they will support me. That's why you'll see that my engagement is good because they will always support me. When your engagement is good, it means you're able to negotiate better money from clients. You're able to show clients when they come to you that, listen, my audience actually believes in me. My audience is willing to purchase or buy into your brand. And that's why I should be earning more. And also, when you're in the space long enough, like I said, when you're leaving corporate or when you're new in the space, you don't realize how much money can actually be made. And a lot of people don't realize that more money is actually made from usage and exclusivity than it is from actually posting the content.
What is that?
Okay, I'll explain it. So you receive a brief from a brand. They tell you, hey, this is the brief. We want to work with you. For example, I'll give Pick and Pay as an example because it's a recent brand that I've partnered with. Hey, we want to work with you for 12 months. So for the next 12 months, these are the content pieces we want. Then they add them. Obviously, your rate is, then you determine your rate. So on social media, you charge for different things. There's a separate rate for videos. There's a separate rate for live videos. There's a separate rate for posting images. There's a separate rate that you charge for posting carousel. So there's a separate rate for posting one image. There's a separate rate for posting multiple images. So a brand will come to you and say, hey, we want you to do 10 posts. For those 10 posts, I'll give random examples. For those 10 posts, we're willing to give you 150,000 rands. However, we want usage. Usage means we want to be able for 6 months or for 12 months to use the content that you create on our own platforms. So the total amount for the 10 deliverables, then they'll need to pay you a percentage of that for usage per month. So it's not a random figure. It's a calculated figure per month. So if let's say your usage fee is 50% of the 10 deliverables of 150,000, if it's what did I say? 30%.
Yeah.
It's 30% or 20% of that. Then you'll take that amount and you'll multiply it by 6 months or 12 months. Then you get a usage fee. So on top of you posting and getting paid for posting, they pay you for usage.
For using it.
Then other brands will come to you and say, hey, we actually want exclusivity. Exclusivity means we don't want you to work with any of our competitors for 6 months or for 12 months. And the same thing will apply. You'll have a rate for exclusivity. Exclusivity is obviously I'm going to charge you more for exclusivity.
Yeah.
Because you are saying, I can't work with anyone else, meaning my income potential from other brands is limited, meaning I can't make money from other brands. So you have to compensate me in order not to make money from other people. And they'll ask for either exclusivity for 6 or 12 months or however many months they want, and they'll calculate that percentage and they need to pay it at a monthly rate as well. That's why I'm saying you'll end up making more, because now if I'm calculating 25% or 50% of 150,000 rands, and now multiplying that by 12, already you've made more than having to actually post. And that's why you'll then make money. And that's why it's important to align yourself with brands that want to work with you long term. Because then they obviously, if they want to work with you for a year or for 8 months, they wouldn't want you to work with anyone else. And therefore they'll pay you for that usage and for that exclusivity. And that's how you end up making money. But also you need to be responsible. Remember, like being a digital content creator, it's like getting a tender. There's good seasons and there's quiet seasons. There's times in the year where it's very busy. Remember, every company or every brand has a budget. So they need to spend that budget, and they've got a plan during the year to say, in the first 3 months of the year, we need to spend this much of money. In the middle part of the year, we're not going to spend too much because it's winter, it's cold, people are not really buying. In the last quarter of the year, we need to spend the rest of the budget. So you need to realize that whenever you're making money, save. Get into the habit of saving and putting away money and planning for other months. So I usually know by March, I already know, okay, I try at least by March, April, May to have made my salary for the year, where I know that, okay, if I've secured 3 good campaigns, long-term campaigns, I can pay myself a salary for the rest of the year. I can help them with this, because for the longest time when I left corporate, it was tough. The first year was tough. You can imagine going from a corporate job where in your first year of working, you're earning more than 30K a month, you comfortably paying your bills, and then you now I'm married, I'm contributing, then suddenly like I'm not making any money. And fortunately, I've got a very supportive husband who's also like very smart. I've got the smartest husband probably in the world.
I beg to differ, but okay. You will have this one because you're the guest.
Better love the smart husband. But yeah, fortunately, I married someone who's really smart and who's doing really well. So he was able to hold the fort, because I believe also that's what marriage is all about. It's about where one person is able to carry more, they carry more. When one person is weak, the other person needs to be strong for the other person. And fortunately, I married someone who was able to take care of things when I wasn't earning much in my first year. I think like probably in my first year of creating content, I probably made like 80,000 rands or less. Which is peanuts. I know it sounds, for a lot of people, it might sound like a lot of money, but yeah, it was a bit tough. I mean, I've got a child, we've got a live-in helper, we've got like, there's just so many things we have that need to be sustained. But yeah, once you start making the money, save, like get into a saving habit, put away money, because you never know when it's going to be quiet. You never know if you're going to go 3 months without getting work. Fortunately, I'm past that stage, but I really don't know what's going to happen next year. Like already I'm planning for next year. Like with the income that I'm making, I'm also into investing for the future. I've got a child. I need to think about his future as well. And we speak about building generational wealth. So for me, working now, I'm not just thinking about how can I provide for now, but I'm also thinking about securing a future for my kids. So that's my headspace right now. And that's my relationship with money when it comes to content creation.
So a lot of people will say, I really want to get into it, but it seems like it's oversaturated. It seems like there's tons of people doing the same thing everywhere. How would you advise someone who's trying to get into it to navigate, get it, to even have like the courage to say, I know there's a lot of people doing it, but I'm gonna try anyway. Is there space for everyone? Is there room for everyone? Genuinely.
I definitely do believe there is space for everyone. Guys, the pie is way too big. And like I said, there's so much money in the space. But also you need to ask yourself why you're doing it. Like with anything. For me, I've chosen this as my work. So I am invested in it. You can't want to do this because everyone is doing it or because they say there's money in the space. Doctors make money, surgeons make money, but I can't decide tomorrow I'm going to be a surgeon because surgeons are making so much money. Am I passionate about being a surgeon? Do I have the grit to keep going even when things get tough, you know? So you need to ask yourself, is this where I want to be? It goes back to those three questions. Where am I going, and what do I need to go there? For me, I don't think I chose content creation. I actually believe it chose me. Like I said, I've always loved taking content, capturing memories. So for me, it comes effortlessly. Like I could do this job in my sleep because I love it so much. Yes, it's overwhelming. Like I said, it gets very overwhelming. I sometimes get inundated with work, but what keeps me going is the love and passion that I have for the work that I do. So if you want to start, don't start with the intention of making money. Start with doing what you're passionate about, and the money will follow you. Like, guaranteed. If you're doing what you love, like, what are you passionate about? I truly believe anyone can coexist in the social media space, especially because of TikTok today. On TikTok, literally people post anything. So post things that you're passionate about, post things that make you happy, but that still add value in someone else's life. Because the only way you can make money is if you're adding value. And if people are seeing the value in your content, you're bound to start making the money. So don't another example my husband gave yesterday when we were with friends is that sometimes it's an analogy actually that, like, when you're on a train and it's moving, it's much easier to slow this train slightly a bit down and start moving this one so that at some point they're moving in parallel and it's easier to jump to the side. Then you're moving really fast on this train, and then this train is here and you're trying to jump over here. It's going to be a very difficult transition and you might feel a bit lost. So try find balance. I believe in balance. Like for me in my life, I like, even when I was in corporate, my boss knew, like, I'm that girly who will do her work and do it well, but still pour out into this, still pour out into content creation, obviously without affecting what's important. Because in life, generally, there's important things and urgent things, and you need to find a balance based on what's important and urgent at the same time. So, like, just start creating, share what you're passionate about, and allow yourself to grow and build relationships, man. Build relationships with people. Like, relationships, I can't like emphasize enough how important relationships are. I'm where I am today because of the relationships I built with the people I work with and the relationships I built with the people who follow me. And that's the key.
With the benefit of hindsight right now, what would you say to someone who is seeing the trend of I can live off, be it YouTube or Instagram, whatever, for the rest of my life, let me quit my job, right? With the benefit of hindsight right now, what would you say to someone? Say, hey, before you jump ship,
don't be in a rush.
Okay.
Don't be in a rush, guys. Don't be in a rush. Like, I had to wait it out. Like, I was in corporate for quite some time before I left. Like, I literally had to sit in it. Like I said, there's a purpose and a reason why you are where you are. Don't leave prematurely. You really need to know. For me, I'm very prayerful and I spend time with God. And like, I always consult God in every decision I make. And there's wise people in my life as well who are able to speak into my life and tell me when they feel that I'm not making the right decisions. But don't do things prematurely. Don't do things because other people are doing it. It's only gonna backfire in your face. So yeah, don't make premature decisions. Really sit and think about your future. And if you're gonna be saying you're doing this long term, what does it mean for you? Like, how exactly are you going to make it work? Because like I said, you can't just go onto social media and just create for the sake of creating unless you're doing it as a hobby. You need to have some sort of plan. Exit plan. Like, even when I left corporate, I had savings. Like, I had savings that were going to keep me going for a bit before I left. I didn't just leave. Also, I'm married. Like, I'm married, fortunately.
Someone was going to take care of
making, who's making a living. It would have been, I don't think I would have had the guts to leave if I was not married, because how the hell would I have been living or surviving? Like, unless and at that time when I left, like you said, it wasn't popular and you were not making as much money as you're making today. So it's not as easy as you're making money now. And not everyone is lucky, guys. I believe every person has a purpose on this earth. And there's some people who are unfortunately going to make it and do well and succeed at certain things. And there's some people who are not going to be as lucky. Someone else might leave corporate today and realize that they made the biggest mistake.
And it's okay to go back.
Yes, it's okay to go back. Like, I'm willing and open to going back to corporate. It's just this is not the season for it, but I'm willing and open to going to school. So I haven't closed myself off entirely to the corporate life and the corporate space, but I keep, like, I know, because I know, okay, there's a chance maybe in the future that I might go back into corporate. I'm still upskilling myself. I'm trying to learn, I'm trying to study, sign up for courses, sign up for specialized qualifications and stuff. So yeah, don't do things because people are doing them, guys. If you're not sure if you need to leave your work or not, don't leave. Rather stay at work. I don't think work also, like, it's not the worst thing in the world. As much as I was unhappy in corporate, it wasn't the worst. Like, I probably would have survived still. And I think that's just an attitude you need to have in life. As a person, you need to have grit. Like, you need to just be a person who, like, you need to, you need to have staying power, man. And make decisions when you're certain that those decisions need to be made.
You touched on a very important thing, which is that you are continuing to upskill yourself even when currently it might not be very relevant. And I think it's a very important thing for anyone, really, to just make sure you're always challenging your brain mentally, right? And this is not me saying content work is work you can do in your sleep, and it's not brain gym. But I'm saying to just keep yourself intellectually sharp, like to keep yourself just,
It's your parts.
Exactly.
It does. Do you know that the reason I actually got to work with Investec is because they were looking for a digital content creator, but not just any digital content creator. They wanted someone with corporate experience. So they wanted a corporate person, but who's a content creator. So there's certain work that I've gotten because of the qualification that I have. And if I want to keep getting that type of work, I need to set myself apart so that when they tell me, oh, tell us about yourself, I can say, oh, actually, I'm registered for corporate governance, or I'm trying to pursue a qualification in this because I want to potentially do this. You never know. Imagine one day I might sit on the board of Pick and Pay. Like, you never know. And that's your thinking should always be bigger than what is happening right now. It can't just be content. For me, it's like, there's more to life than content creation. There's more to life than social media. I don't want to be on social media for the rest of my life. There needs to come a point where I actually just post on Instagram for leisure. Like, I'm going on holiday and I just feel like posting. So this is not, I don't want to be on social media forever. So I need to, that's why I need to continuously think, okay, what does the future look like? Where do I want to be? Where do I see myself? Which boards do I want to sit on potentially? How do I add value in my home? Like, what type of mother do I want to be? What type of wife do I want to be? And the decisions I make daily need to contribute to that.
You've probably mentioned, I think all along you've been like giving nuggets here and there, but what do you think is the one thing that sets you apart as a brand? Like, in the world of so many of people doing the same thing, what is that one thing that you think really sets you apart? And where, if there are 5 of you, someone is going to say, I want to work with Didi?
For me, it's my heart, the relationships. I don't think you need, as much as you need intellect, you need those soft skills as well. And I think I'm very, very strong when it comes to my soft skills. Like, put me in any room with it. Like, I remember my friends have saying was like, one thing about you will literally talk to everyone and anyone. When I attend events, I'm not going there for a good time, Hadi. Like, no, I'm not going there for a good time. I'll go to an event and I want to find out who owns the brand. Who are the top executives of this brand? And you'll find me talking to those people. I'll introduce myself. I'll ask them who they are. I'll even ask, I remember I went to a choreographed event and one of the top people at choreographed flew in from Cape Town. And I was like, hi, I introduced myself. Like, we're in a room full of people. There was food, drinks, and everyone was having a good time. And the first thing I asked was, who's the big person here? And they told me, and I was like, I introduced myself and I'm like, hey, I'm Didi. By the way, I've actually worked with you guys, but I want to continue this relationship. This is what I have in mind for the future. This is what we can do together. Oh, I'm launching Dine with Didi. can I please have your contact? She tried to give me an email address. I was like, can I actually have your WhatsApp number? So you need that. You need to be bold. Like you need to know yourself, and you need to be so confident, and you need to step into rooms and stand out. You can't, you literally
Can't just
can't. I'm
blend
not the
in.
type of,
Yeah.
yes, I'm not the type of person who walks into the room and I blend in. And it's not being overconfident in myself, but I think I've worked enough on myself to know who I am and to know what I carry, that I can walk into any room and talk to anyone and not be intimidated and build relationships. Because it's one thing to make the connections, but how are you maintaining those relationships?
Yes.
Like relationship maintenance is such an important thing. You need to look like, and I don't know if other people are doing this, but
Yeah.
another thing that I believe sets me apart is that when I get approached for work, we get briefs as content creators. They'll say, this is what we want you to do. I think beyond the brief.
Yeah.
What is client missing? What am I seeing that client is not seeing that I know will make a difference? And that's the value that I add. And I go above and beyond. Like sometimes you'll see, I'll get approached to post on Instagram, but I'm like, no, I want to build long term. So I'll post for you. Like client won't even ask me to post on TikTok, but I'm like, I'm going to post it on TikTok as well for them. Yeah. And it's going to do well. And I'm going to show them my stats, and I'm going to show them that
the extra mile.
Well. Yes, going the extra mile. I've had instances where even when working with clients, where let me try to think of a brand, but there's been a few where clients will like say, oh, we're paying you this much, and I'll say, from that money I want to take some of the money and give it away to my audience. Let's run a giveaway. They don't have the budget for the giveaway, but a giveaway is always a good idea because it brings visibility for clients. And I'll say, take 5K or take 10K from my payment and let's give it away to one of my followers. That shows the client that I'm serious about their business, but it also shows my my followers that I care about them and I value the support that they show me. So those are just some of the things that I believe set me apart.
Sure. Yeah. Because we're friends, we could talk forever, and I think that there's a lot to this, but we have to end it at some point. But what is the plan? Where is Didi going? Obviously, don't give up all of your cards because you have to play some cards close to chest. But what is the vision? What should we look forward to get us excited about what you're doing?
Yeah, so my main focus honestly is Dine with Didi. I want to grow it. Like I said to you earlier, I believe there's so much room for growth. There's so many pillars within Dine with Didi that I want to work on. Podcasts, hosting guests, hosting events, having meals with my followers. So there's just so many things that I want to do with my audience. But it's all a matter of timing. And when the time is right, it's going to happen. And when I do, like I said, when I put my heart into things, I want to do them well. And I want to make sure that it's value adding. I don't just do things for the sake of doing them, but there's a lot of plans I have for Dine with Didi. And I really just want the brand to grow. Like I don't want it to just stay on Instagram. I want it to go on TV. There's a lot that I want for my brand, and God willing, it will happen. But I'm also amendable to God's plans for my life. A lot of, like, as much as I work hard and I do a lot, I like a life of ease. Like I like to just pull back and just have a very relaxed, simple life. I love a simple life. So yeah, I try to strike a balance between the simplicity of life and putting in the work and working hard.
Friend, thank you so much for coming. I honestly have no doubt that whatever it is you put your hand to, it's going to flourish, because for me, I see how seriously you take this. This is not a hobby. This is not a favor that you're doing for your followers. I really see how you work hard to like set yourself apart, to how people usually say don't take yourself very seriously, but sometimes you actually do need to take yourself seriously. You need to take, because your name, your reputation, your brand, is something that, especially for you, that you carry and like determines whether your son eats today or doesn't. And I think you're doing an incredible job, and I think for me, what also stands out is that you can tell that you are intentional about who you align yourself with, and that's authenticity is not something that we get a lot of these days. Maybe it's tough economic times. I don't know what it is, but it's so refreshing to see someone where you're like, if you see this person promoting this brand or doing this it's because they genuinely believe in it, they genuinely use it, and they definitely genuinely aligns with them. So I think it's very refreshing to see people who are not just about the money, but who are also like thinking about the type of influence that they have, and being conscious of whether, do I really want to influence people in this direction? Is it actually good and beneficial for them?
But it's also about stewardship, friend.
Yes.
It's also about good stewardship. The Bible speaks a lot about stewardship. Like when something is placed in your hands, what are you actually doing with it?
Yes.
Just because a lot of like young people like to say, yeah, I don't want to be in a company making money for someone else and this person is getting richer. And guys, for as long as you are in a certain place and in a season, you need to be a good steward of what's in your hand. You need to with what's been placed in your hand, you need to make the most of it and you need to multiply it. So for me, that's the same mentality and approach I have with brands. So when I'm working with my brands and people see me putting in the hard work, it's not just, yes, it's for my brand because I value my brand and the work that I put out there is very important for me. I want to put out excellence. Like I am a person of excellence, but at the same time, it's like this brand trusted me enough with their brand. Yes. Like this company has trusted me enough with their brand and they're putting money into me and I need to be a good steward of what they've placed, like what they've trusted me with. And that's literally just what it is, friend.
Amazing. Thank you so much, friend, for coming. When I asked her to come, she was like, I don't do podcasts, but for you, I'll come. And I was like,
I really don't like these things.
But look at you. Look at you. You were like, I was like, okay, you might as well just come sit where I'm sitting. But it was so refreshing. And I can see the passion like radiating from you. So thank you so much. And keep going. We're rallying behind you, sometimes even in silence. But you're doing an incredible job. And I pray that God blesses all the work of your hands. And that God multiplies each and everything that your hand finds to do. And I wish you all the success. Thank you guys so much for watching. As usual, if you have any questions or comments about this space, if you're interested in getting into the social media content space, just drop your comments in the comment section below, and I'll try by all means to get Didi to respond to as many of your questions and your comments that you might have. Otherwise, thank you so much for your time. I will see you guys again next time. Goodbye.